لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. It's day 3 of the first 10 days of Hijjah. I've been able to take some tips from previous editions. Today will not be an exception because we are going to talk on something that I'm always so enthused about talking about. And it is one of the favors Allah has bestowed on the Ummah. How many of his favors can we really deny? And I call it bridging the gap. We are going to be talking on zakat today. That is the third pillar of Islam.
One other important thing that people should equally take advantage to is to pay your zakat. If you have not paid your zakat during the month of Ramadan, these are another important days in the sight of Allah that you get multiple reward by paying your zakat around this time. This period of time is really important for Muslims.
Alright, you have heard the definition and some of the things that we talked about zakat. Are you zakatable? You say, has your earning reached in a soul? I'm not a scholar. We have one in the house. It's a great pleasure to welcome back to the studios of Apes Media Company Limited. Doctor, PhD, not medical doctor. Dr. Mustafa Adebayo Bello is a senior lecturer at the Department of Religious and Peace Studies, Lagos State University. Welcome back to the program.
It's my pleasure to be back.
Thank you again for agreeing to join us in spite of your very loaded and busy schedule. Now, zakat.
Yes.
What about zakat, sir? How does it bridge the gap between the rich and poor?
Well, zakat is the third fundamental principle of Islam, or what is called the pillar of Islam. Islam is built on 5 pillars. The first is faith in Allah. The second is devotional worship. And the third is zakat. And to underscore its importance, you find that in several places of the Quran where Allah mentioned how important salat is, devotional worship, Allah will mention along with it the payment of zakat. Zakat has been described as the compulsory charity or the almsgiving that Muslims who are well-to-do and whose wealth has reached a certain limit called the nisab, to deduct from it 2.5% of their earnings to ameliorate the conditions of the poor and the vulnerable members of the Muslim community. So it is important, in fact, as important as it is, while the Prophet passed on, and some Muslims, for reasons of the fact they felt that they owed their allegiance to the Prophet, they said they will not pay zakat again. And the Caliph who took over from the Prophet, Abu Bakr, said because of that, they are out of the fold of Islam. And for that, they must be compelled to pay zakat. So zakat is not just something of if I have the
voluntary.
It's not voluntary. It is, and that's why there is an imperative word Allah used in Surah At-Tawbah. It said, "Khudh min amwalikum sadaqatan." Take from their wealth. So it is an instructive word that I said, instructing the Prophet, take from their wealth. That meaning that anybody who refuses to pay, you must compel him to pay, if we are within the confines of the Islamic community. So zakat is important as the third pillar of Islam.
Okay, interestingly enough, you said something that take from the rich and give to the poor. That means in Allah's wisdom, he knows that everybody cannot be equal. Everybody cannot be poor and everybody cannot be rich.
Yes, in Allah's wisdom, in the verse of the Quran, Allah says, "A'um yaksimuna rahmata rabbika." That it is not us that use our wisdom in appropriating everything that you see in life. I appropriate wealth, I appropriate knowledge, I appropriate even good health, and I don't give it to people the same level. So Allah has his own divine measurement with which he measures wealth to the people. And since he has used his wisdom in doing that, which we cannot query, he has now given us a mechanism by which we can bridge the gap between the rich and the poor, just as those who are knowledgeable are given the task of teaching those who are less knowledgeable or who are ignorant. The same way Allah has given the task to the rich people, that the divine understanding of this is this. Allah will, by his own measurement, give the wealth of about 20 people into the hands of one person. So it becomes the responsibility of that man who has been given the wealth of 20 people to look for the 19 others and distribute it to them.
What if he doesn't want to?
If he doesn't want to, then he has breached the responsibility given to him by his Lord. He has become disobedient. And that's why it is not followed in Islam. You must give out.
Because that means you are not even doing somebody you are giving zakat to a favor.
It's not. In fact, it's like you are doing it to yourself too. Because the more you give, the more Allah will also give to you.
Okay.
So it's about it's self cleansing and the self multiplying. So the art of having more, the platform to which you can get more is about spending more.
Is it necessary to let the recipient know that this is zakat funds?
He must know.
Okay.
The recipient must know that this, what I'm earning now, what I'm getting now, is from zakat fund, so that he can also learn that if God, through his own, graciousness, decide to give to him, he will also know that it becomes his responsibility to pay to others.
Interestingly enough, zakat is a percentage of your earning to the less privileged, right?
Yes.
How is this? This is almost the same as tax. How is it different?
You see, because we are living in a plural society, Muslims may not really understand the basis of zakat. The taxes that government collects from all of us are used to, do all the facilities that will make life more meaningful to all of us.
Sorry, sir. You know why I asked that? Because I know even in the period of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they were also paying tax. Is that correct?
Yes. Because government decide to say, okay, their income tax, what we call value-added tax, or different kinds of
multiple taxation
that government want to take money from the citizenry to be able to make provision to provide for the citizenry. That is aside. Zakat has a specific reason, a specific purpose. It is targeted at the poor. In fact, the Quran gave 8 categories of persons who are beneficiaries of zakat. They are special selected people.
That's my next question, but go.
Yeah, they are special selected people. So it is not just like no Muslim can have an excuse that because I pay my income tax, I pay value-added tax, I pay all this tax, so I should not pay zakat again. No, because those other taxes that I've mentioned are meant to be used for certain purposes that are clearly defined. The same way zakat is meant to take care of the poor and the vulnerable members of the society. And for that reason, a Muslim cannot excuse himself from not paying zakat because he has been paying taxes to government. What makes zakat unique is because there are rules governing its payment, there are rules governing its disbursement, and those rules must not be breached for any reason. So if you are not qualified to pay zakat because your money has not reached the sub, and if I have to say it, currently I checked the nisab as announced by the National Moon Sighting Committee in March this year. It's about over 8 million naira.
8 million?
Yes.
Because of the inflationary rate?
Yeah, because of the exchange rate.
So
meaning that if your money has not reached...
It used to be 1 million.
At the point it was even 2 million, but now it's 8 million because of the exchange rate. It's calculated in dollars. So it's about 8 million, 8.7 million.
So if your money is not up to 8 million,
that, you are not qualified. Allah has given you what they call tax holiday.
That's holiday. Zakat holiday.
Zakat holiday now. So, but you can pay Zadaka. Sadaka is your own way of giving charity, help to the poor in society.
Who are those categories, or in what instances can you pay zakat? We have a recipient. When we unfortunately lost the first studio over there to Inferno Distress, ZSL, one of our partners here, gave us zakat. Okay. Alhamdulillah, that's why most times we are never in blackout here. We invested it in solar. You understand? As at that time, money could. So, who are those? Not necessarily the poor. So, I want you to further elucidate on the recipients.
Let me just read it out copiously from the Quran. Allah says, إنما صدقات للفقراء والمساكين والعاملين عليها والمخلفة قلوبهم وفي الرقاب والغارمين وفي سبيل الله وابن السبيل فريضة من الله والله عليم حكيم. Translated, zakat is meant for the poor. That's the first category.
Okay.
Wal masakin, the needy. Wal amilina alayha, those who work on zakat. That is, those who are officials, staff, those who are in the disbursement, in the management of zakat. Wa mukhalafat qulubuhum, and those whose hearts are to be reconciled with Islam, new converts, who are just new, and who, on the reasons of their conversion to Islam or reversion to Islam, they lost some properties, or maybe they were ostracized by their family because they embrace Islam. Zakat must be used to, as it were, settle them and make them to be comfortable within the fold of Islam. What will recall those who are in bondage, maybe bondage of the fact that they are in prison or in IDP camp, those who are displaced, Walgarimin, and those who are in serious debt, legitimate debt that we know that they will not be able to come out of it, and it will, it will demobilize them in moving on in life. So you must
compromise their iman.
What is sabilillah? This is a generic word in the way of Allah. Maybe in the building of mosque, in the building of digging of boreholes for people to make life meaningful. Wabunu sabil, and the wayfarer. Allah said, Faridotun, their obligation in Allah. It's an obligation for those who have to give out. Wallahu alimul hakim. That is Quran, Surah At-Tawbah, verse 60. So we have 8 categories of people.
I didn't hear you talking about those doing dawah like we are doing here.
Dawah belong to what I call is generic, fi sabilillah. Allah has used that word so that other categories of people who are in need of zakat that are not mentioned clearly here, you can classify them under fi sabilillah, in the aid of Allah's work.
Okay.
Zakat is a pillar of Islam. Sadaqah is not. Zakat has specific period. It's paid only once in a year.
Yes.
Zakat you can pay as many times as possible. Zakat has a rate. It has to be 2.5% of whatever you have, your net earnings. Sadaqah as much as you can.
You say net earning?
Yes.
Does it include side hustle, for instance?
Net earnings is what you earn. It's your money. It's your money. Whether it's side hustle, whether it's the money you keep in the bank. In fact, there is a way it is calculated. If you go online now, most of the zakat agencies, they have what they call it calculator, that you can just put your salary. If you are earning salary, put your salary there. If you have money in fixed deposit, put it there. If you have other stocks, put it there. It will rank all of them, calculate what you have, and give you the percentage.
Interesting.
And you take 2.5 out of it.
Interesting. Everything has been so made easy. Now, a lot of people who normally will not be beneficiary, they advocate to benefit from zakat. You will be telling us the implication of that. The program is still half-hour enlightening ourselves on the first 10 days of the Hijjah. And today we are focusing on zakat, the 4th pillar of Islam. And you know that this program is supported by Aspira Nigeria Limited and a former zakat institution in Nigeria, Zakat and Sadaqah Foundation. Let's go for this short break. We'll come back for the concluding part of this discussion on this edition of the program. Join us shortly.
So every single act of charity will go a long way at this point in time, and to be sure that we are our brothers keep, especially what we are passing through in the country. It calls for those of us who are opportune, who have more than others, to begin to share, to begin to be sharing what they have, so that the burden can become lessened especially for the poor, the needy, the less privileged among us. So this is the period that Allah has dedicated, and that's the nature of Islam. All the time we are moving from one to another. We finished Ramadan just about 2 months. Now we're another sacred month to earn more reward. So Allah has designed Islam such that we should continue to live with one another in peace and harmony.
Let's enjoy this happy day.
As this year's Eid al-Adha gets closer, many families won't be celebrating since there is no means.
The Eid is around, and we are so happy that the Eid is around. Many Muslims are happy, while several others are not happy because they do not have the means to slaughter ram. Why not let us join the Prophet ﷺ in his own Qurbani way, the way he slaughtered his own ram? He bought one for himself and bought one for several people that will not be able to make it. Now, we can as well do that. We started this project over the years in Zakat and Zakah Foundation. Our approach is that we gather this money, we encourage people to buy their own and buy for those who will not have. So please join this project by making your own donation. You can decide to buy a cow, you can buy ram, you can buy sheep, and you can as well make a donation. Nothing is too much and nothing is too small.
Your donations and contributions will go a long way to put smiles on the faces of many Muslims and their loved ones. Qurbani Project today and help make many Muslim families happy. Jazakumullahu khairan.
Join this happy day. عيد مبارك لك والملك لا شريك لك.
It's a great pleasure to welcome you back. It is the first 10 days of Hijjah. We are enlightening ourselves. Today we are focusing on Zakat. The third pillar, I call it bridging the gap. Okay, so there's a question pending for our in-house stars. People clamoring for Zakat. Would you consider that out of greed or just wanting to be a beneficiary that is not?
That we are poor as a people is not, you don't require any indices from the Nigeria Bureau of Statistics to know that people are poor, and the rate of poverty in Nigeria is so high. So if you now see people agitating for Zakat, people should not look at it from the point of greed. I think the issue is this: Muslims have not been discussing Zakat. That's why I want to commend you and commend the sponsors for having a program like this where we are discussing Zakat. If you move around, even in Ramadan, you hardly find Muslims discussing Zakat. And the reason why we are poor as a people is because many of those who are entitled to, who are qualified to pay Zakat, are not paying. And if they are not paying, it means that there will be more poor Muslims around. And so if people now demand for it, it's not because they are greedy, it's because people are genuinely poor, particularly in the circumstances of the recent economic problems that we have in the country. So the issue is that our people are poor, and if they are poor, Allah has institutionalized Zakat as a means of taking care of these people, those who are vulnerable to the economic recession that we have. But Muslims have not been doing it enough. And that's how we commend Zakat and Zakat Foundation and other foundations that are trying to change this narrative. And it is on record. People can even go online, go on Google and ask. There was a time in the annals of Islamic history, in Damascus, a Khalifa, Umar bin Abdul Aziz, administered Zakat for 3 years. And in the 3rd year of his reign, there was no poor person in the whole of Damascus who was poor enough to collect Zakat. So the entire Zakat that was collected in that 3rd year was returned back to the covers of the treasury of the state, because he has used the Zakat of the previous 2 years to ameliorate the conditions of the poor people. And that's why we are saying that if those who are rich, if they are paying and genuinely giving to those who are poor, then we will reduce the rate of poverty in our society.
Why do you think people are reluctant to pay Zakat? Is it they feel that there will be reduction in their wealth?
It's the same reason why people don't pay tax. People don't want to part with their earnings for whatever reasons. And that's why if you look at the verses on Zakat in the Quran, Allah gave a lot of incentives for people who want to pay. And if you pay Zakat, Allah will double and multiply your blessings. That is not all. There's a special place in Jannah where Allah is going to place those who pay Zakat. So it's the same phobia by people that if I have this money that I've worked for, why should I now give it to people who I feel that have not worked, hard enough, like myself? And that's why clerics need to talk to people. Okay. That the way of earning, of getting more from Allah, if you are a thousandaire now, and you want to get to the level you want to become a millionaire, pay Zakat. If your earnings in millions now, we want it to be increased to billions, pay Zakat. If you're a billionaire, you want it to become a trillionaire, pay Zakat. And when you pay Zakat, then it is a promise of Allah.
Of your wealth.
Allah will purify your wealth from all the inadequacies, impurities that you have gone through while earning them, then will increase your wealth.
All right. You know, interestingly enough, I need you to clarify this too. Is it the third pillar of Islam? First of all, take care of your ummah before you consider other people. Is it only Muslims that can benefit from zakat? Because I'm asking this. Sometimes we attend some ceremonies of zakat beneficiaries and we see non-Muslims there. Among the categories you classified earlier, can there be a situation where a non-Muslim qualified to collect zakat?
The verse I've mentioned speaks to Muslims. But there are persons whose hearts are closer to Islam. That perhaps if you give them zakat, you are able to assist them, motivate them in embracing Islam. So such categories of persons can be assessed through zakat. But that verse speaks to Muslims alone who are in these different categories that we have mentioned.
You know, the information you gave earlier that the nisab has even increased up to 8 million. Some people may not be aware and they will just feel, some also would take it if you give somebody, because some people decide to give direct to people. Some say, okay, they pay through institution. That is where issue of security comes here too. If you decide to give to somebody, say, he has a kind of money, and then there will be some level of sense of entitlement. Every year, such person will be expectant. So which one do you think is best? Pay directly to individual or pay through institution?
And that's why we're encouraging Muslims to pay through institutions. And these institutions, some of them that we know over the years have earned our trust because of the way they've been doing it. I don't want to mention some of them, in the public space, but we know them. And most of them even publish their accounts every year. And they even share with us the names of the beneficiaries and what they have done so far. So they are there. So let's go through them. Okay. One, they'll be able to, because beyond the fact that they know those who are vulnerable, who are poor, they also do a lot of what they call investigation,
of course,
to verify the claims, fact finding. And they also do what they call, after disbursing, they also do what they call evaluation and monitoring. For instance, if somebody said he wants to do a business and you are giving him money, you must be able to monitor so that I report back to say, oh, this is the what the person has used the money for, and this is what the person has been able to do, so that to encourage others too. So those institutions are there. Zakat and Salary Foundation and some other organizations have also established theirs. It's better to go through them.
Yes, and possibly even encourage such a recipient to even be a zakat payer next time.
That is the intent of zakat.
Okay.
And that's why we are saying that it is not right to say, I want to spread my zakat over so many people. For instance, if the zakat is there's a million naira, you now feel that, oh, you want to give it to about 50 people, and now you are giving 50,000 naira. That cannot be that is not the objective of zakat.
You should be able to give a certain
one or
amount
two persons that are able to take that person out of poverty. That even if he's not qualified to pay zakat in the next year, he will not be qualified to receive again.
Okay, good. This question has continuously agitated my mind, and I think this is the right time to ask. You have enumerated the categories of people that should receive. Does it matter if such a person is your relative?
Let me make a clarification here. There are certain persons whose responsibility are on you. You can't pay zakat to them. For instance, if you are a mother, your parents, to your children, you can't pay your zakat to them because they are your responsibility. The husband to the wife, you can't pay your zakat to your wife because your wife is your responsibility. But conversely, the wife can pay a zakat to her husband. If the wife is so rich and she knows that the husband will be in need of this to be able to raise him out of poverty so that he will be able to also meet his responsibility at home, the wife can give. But your siblings, your uncles, your aunts, your nephew, your cousins, they are not your responsibility in the real sense of the word. They are not. You are not under obligation if you don't have to take care of them. But if you have, why not? So your zakat, and that's why I'm aware in some of these foundations, if you take money there, you can make specification to them oh, I have 2 or 3 persons that I want to, so that by the time they are giving, they may not even know it's from you, but they will be able to assist you in meeting their needs if you specify to them. There's nothing wrong in that. Okay. But those persons who are like your parents, you can't give your zakat to your parents. They are your obligations.
Okay, because some say that instead of giving zakat to a sibling, for instance, you can just tag it as sadaqah.
No, you can give zakat. You can give sadaqah too, but you can give zakat.
Because if you have zakat and you say, okay, instead of giving this zakat, let me kukuma do it and send it as a sadaqah. And then,
let me now put it there. The payment of sadaqah by somebody who is qualified to pay zakat does not in any way absolve him from paying zakat.
Any final word?
The final word is this: Allah knows our conditions, and Allah has designed. He knows that there are persons who will be poor and there are persons who will be rich. What you have today that qualifies you to be called a rich person is not by your education, it's not by your birth, it's not by your hard work. It's because as the grace of Allah. Share that grace with those who are less privileged. And look at the grace in Islam. I know of a religion where they pay 10%. Allah has not asked us as Muslims to pay even 10 or 5%. Just 2.5% of your net earnings. From 10 million naira, it's just about 250,000 naira. 10 million naira, your zakat is 250,000 naira. So Allah has given you the grace to be able to spend how much on your own? 9.75 million on your own. You can spend it the way you want, but just give the poor 250%. If Muslim pays zakat, we have less. 2.5%. If Muslim pays zakat, we have less number of poor people. So let us encourage the foundation, those who are there, to do their work. When you pay, Allah will multiply your blessing.
Jazakumullahu khairan. Dr. Mustafa Adebayo Bello, Senior Lecturer, Department of Religious and Peace Studies, Lagos State University. Thank you very much for coming.
Okay.
Zakat has been our focus on the program today. Now our question. Remember, you send that answer to our Facebook page, Ace Media Company Limited. And what's the question? I know this one, just a giveaway question for today. What is nisab and what is the present nisab that anybody should have to qualify to pay zakat? That's our question. I'm sure it's cheap. Remember, even if you all answer it correctly, the first answer we get correctly and convincingly will win from an array of gifts given to us by our partners, Aspira Nigeria Limited and ZSF. Biggie has also supported us with products. Let's do this again same time tomorrow. It's 10 days of Dhul Hijjah. We are enlightening ourselves, learning, relearning, and unlearning how we can earn a lot of barakah this season. Till I see you tomorrow, say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.